right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Mompreneur Life. I'm your host, Lindsay McLaughlin, and we're here with Chuck. Chuck, I'm going to destroy your last name. Can you pronounce your last name for me?
Bongiovanni.
Bongiovanni. All right. Thank you. So, Chuck, I have been super excited to get on this call with you here. I think you are just a wealth of information and inspiration at that, because you've developed some really amazing brands, and just creating franchises like that in and of itself is extraordinary. So we're excited to hear from you and just learn from you, really. Okay. So if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your past and what really led you to starting your first business.
Yeah, great. Well, let me see. Wow, back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth. No, I'm kidding. I guess I always thought when I was growing up that I was going to work, like my father did, one job, one career, one company, and I was planning on doing that. And I met my first wife and saw her try to be an entrepreneur. I mean, she tried her hardest, but she kept failing at all these different businesses. And as she was going along, I'd say, well, maybe you need to do this or you need to do that. And she kind of wouldn't take my advice, which is okay. But when I realized after maybe the fourth business that what I was telling her was probably what would have saved her business. So of course, we divorced, and I had my son. He was 6 months old, and I had full custody of him. So it was just me and him. I mean, she moved away. I had no family in the state of Arizona, and it was just me and him. And I just finished my master's in social work. So if you can imagine, there really wasn't much meat on the bone with that career. And so I thought, how can I make this career into something different? And I just kept my ears open, and I was working with seniors, helping them after they were discharged from hospitals. And what I noticed was a good number of the families decided that mom couldn't live at home anymore, and she needed to move to assisted living or a memory care place. And so I helped them, and didn't even think about that being a business until probably the sixth or seventh person that asked me. And then I thought, what if I could create a business that used my social work skills, but kind of also use the skills like, let's say, a real estate agent,
Mm-hmm.
So I would, find out what mom's care needs were, and then I would show her to 3 or 4 assisted living places. And I, convinced them, hey, just let me be an extension of your marketing company. If I bring someone to you and they move in, pay me a fee. And so that started working out so well that I quit my stable job probably within 2 months or so.
Oh my gosh, that was short.
Pretty short. Yeah. So built that up, and business was crazy. I looked at it as, my private practice. I was still a social worker, but that was my private practice. So I was getting referrals from hospitals and doctors and all those kind of places, and just kept building it. It wasn't always, 100% on key and successful. I mean, part of my thing that I always tell people is to I tell them the story about what I call the sexy buffalo. You ever heard this story?
I don't think I've heard of the sexy buffalo. Please enlighten me.
Well, buffalo are the only herd animal that when they smell a storm coming, a thunderstorm, they're the only animal that runs directly into the storm. All other animals run away and hide. They run opposite directions. They burrow. They do whatever they need to avoid the storm. But yet the storm still comes to them, and it's actually more intense when it comes to them because it's built up strength. But the buffalo just looks at that storm and runs right at it. So the buffalo actually gets the least intense part of the storm by running towards it. Now, that's a metaphor for when you're in business. Just look straight down and charge. Don't even look around you. Don't look at competition. Don't look at anyone behind you. Just put your head down and just beat it and make it happen. In reality, the buffalo have huge olfactory glands, and they can smell a wet grass on the other side of the storm, which is why they want to go there to eat. But, when you think about that metaphorically, I always tell business owners, I don't care if things aren't working for you. It doesn't matter, because in reality, the end game's attrition. You can start with 50 people, 50 competitors. It's attrition. Whoever lasts the longest wins. So anyhow, long story short, I started building that business and it started going really well. And I decided to look into franchising in 2009, and I got remarried, and my wife and I started a company called Care Patrol that helped families find assisted living. Built that over the next maybe 9 years. Sold that to private equity in 2018. My wife still runs that company. She's the brand president.
Okay.
And then in the middle of COVID, when the big storm was coming, this sexy buffalo decided to run right through it and started my second franchise system, which is called Majestic Residences, which is actually be franchising senior housing. So I'm on the other side of the desk now than I was before. So we franchise small residential care homes. So in the long story short, don't listen to people around you. Most people around you that tell you no are usually the people who can't do it themselves and they know it. You know what I'm saying? So, doesn't mean be pig-headed and don't take advice. It just means if you have a goal and you have a dream, you just have to keep working it until it works.
That is true. So have you faced setbacks in these businesses over the years?
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember, I always remember my son's birthday. I mean, you should as a father anyhow, but I always, cause October is usually a slower month in the business. And I always knew that in October I had to like make things work because it was a bad month always, every year. But the thing is, if you know what's coming, you can plan for it. So your first year in business, you're just, I always say, make big mistakes, make them quickly, but make huge mistakes. I mean, go out of your way to make a mistake because you'll learn, it's what they call the fast failure model. Learn all your mistakes first, take the risk first. Because if you wait 3 years before you take a risk, and then something fails, you might act very differently than if you did in the very beginning. So, make all those mistakes, print on the wrong paper and, put the wrong phone number on your business card. Or what I did was I had a business card with a phone number on it. And then I didn't realize I didn't own the phone number. And then all of a sudden it changed. And, yeah, there's been a lot of mistakes, but you have to just, they say falling down is by accident, standing up is on purpose.
Yeah, I can certainly relate to those mistakes. I got to share with you this this mistake. I didn't realize I'd had it up on my website for 2 years, and I had one of my directors do a virtual walkthrough tour. I thought, oh, this will make it really personal. I didn't want it to be like super over professional. I wanted it to just be real.
Uh-huh.
Well, it was real. We had one resident that lived in the home, and she all day long, every day, yelled, "Help! Help! Help!"
I think I met
Unless
her.
you were right in her face talking to her. The moment you turn away, she was yelling, "Help!"
Yep.
And you just kind of become so used to hearing it, like what she wants. She got a lot of attention. Anyway, I didn't know until like 2 years later, someone finally called it out and said, "Lindsay, do you know that virtual tour you have on your website, there's a lady screaming help in the background?"
No. Oh no.
I'm like, wow, that might have been impacting
Oh,
my
that's funny.
sales.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
the last thing you want is to hear somebody yelling for help.
Yeah.
So,
That's funny.
yeah, so I get it.
I met
So,
about 20 patients or 20 residents just like that too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, God love them. But yeah, so I can relate to those kind of mistakes. So yeah, so going into having mistakes then, and so facing failures, and how do you come out of that? How do you come out of the adversity, the big mistakes? Those are mistakes, but those are those are ones that can be overcome. What about like the big ones that really hit you financially or impact your family?
Um, I didn't calculate taxes once one year, and that was a big chunk that we had to pay at the end of the year. Didn't realize it. So, have a good tax person, take their advice, and don't think you're smarter than them.
Yes, I'm taking notes as you're
Oh,
talking.
that's good. No problem.
Yeah, that's true. What about attorneys? I know you have had several encounters with attorneys to help you protect your businesses. How
Yeah.
do you feel about somebody getting into business for the first time? And if they're wanting to, you know, pinch pennies, is it worth pinching the pennies
Not at all.
over not going to an attorney?
Don't do it. Don't do it. I've seen more businesses fail because they're underfunded in the very beginning. So if your choice is to be underfunded and start your business, then don't start your business.
Mhm.
Wait an extra 6 months or wait an extra year so you can hire the people around you that can support you. I guess that's probably a business mistake I did in the very beginning. I mean, we bootstrapped Care Patrol for many, many, many years and took on too much as owners. I mean, my franchisees back then used to joke that, 4 years into it, I'm still making their business cards. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to run this company. I'm making their business cards, you know, um, which is different from, the new franchise because I've learned all the mistakes the first time. So hire to your weaknesses and don't do anything that a $12 an hour employee can do because you're wasting your money because you're worth a lot more than that. And it may be difficult in the beginning to be able to do that, but you have to understand there's no growth until you do that. It just won't happen.
My gosh, that is such good advice. And like you said, if you're starting out underfunded, wait. So what are some suggestions? If people are starting out a little underfunded or if really they need $50,000 and they're only at 10,000, they're like, I'm going to make this work. What would you advise? How could they come up with some extra cash or
Well,
your
before that,
advice?
they need to read every book that's possible about their industry. You got to read everything. If you're underfunded, you have to read everything. Secondly, there's nothing wrong with asking for partners. A lot of people, I want to start this business, it's going to be all mine and mine and mine. You know what? Find some partners with some money, give them a percentage. Don't begrudge them because you gave them a percentage because you wouldn't be in business without them and make it work that way. Um, because every day you're not in business is the day that someone else is.
Mm, that's so true. And really like you said, to read, and the more people that you meet and the more people you read about that are just killing it in business and have multiple businesses,
No,
they're not doing it alone.
no, not at
They
all.
have multiple partners for multiple businesses, and they'll be happy to start another business tomorrow and go get some new
Yeah.
partners too.
And if you do it right and you're not working in the business too much, you can have multiple businesses working. Just hire some really good people. Like when I left Care Patrol and started the other company, I made sure my main person came with me.
Mm.
She was like my business wife, shall we say. They call her the Chuck Whisperer. I wouldn't be successful without bringing her along. So, you have to understand that there's people that make you better, right? And then there's people that are just yes people, and you don't want those yes people. You want the people that'll make you better.
That push you a little bit.
Absolutely, the ones that challenge you. And that's when you have some good people you're working with, is when they have the confidence and the trust in you enough to say, hey, you're doing this wrong, or have you thought about this instead? Right, rather than just I need to be nice to my boss and agree with them and understand it. You need people that are going to be pushing back at you. And if you're a visionary, you need a doer. You need a detailed doer. In my first business, that was my wife. In my second business, it's my employee Shannon. You have to hire and use people to your weakness, and you have to be, humble enough to say, I have a weakness. This is what my weakness is, and I need to find someone that can cover that weakness. And I probably didn't do that as much as my first company because I made the excuse, I can't afford the person. I can't afford them, but you can't afford not to have them. You know what I mean? And you're always the last one at the dinner table. You're the last one that eats all the time. You have to remember that, because you'll be able to afford a banquet quicker when you have other people eating before you.
Hmm. That is really solid advice. Absolutely. So what about, I mean, you're saying to hire for weaknesses and all that. So when it comes to partners, do you think that your partners need to, let me rephrase that question. Do you think it's better to have partners that have similar strengths as you, or do you think it's better to have partners that have different kinds of strengths
Different,
all around?
different kind of strengths. If you have two partners that are great at marketing, they're gonna butt heads, right? Because someone always has a better idea. So find people that that have completely different strengths than you do, that complement you.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I agree with you on that too. So, I mean, you work with new entrepreneurs quite often,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Yeah. So what are some big mistakes that you see them make coming in where you're there to help them along?
Um, Getting too excited too quickly, right? Because I mean, I know that thrill. I know the excitement. I mean, buddy of mine used to call me a chef, and I'm like, why you call me a chef? Because you have a soup of the day. Every day is a different idea, and every day you get excited about a different idea, and you can't be successful that way. He gave me some great advice and just said, pick one soup and sell it. You know.
Mm,
So yeah, so I think they get so excited. This idea is going to be great that they haven't thought it all the way through, and they start way too early. You know, and I'm in the process right now of starting a pretty big separate company that is kind of um, it complements the company I have now, and I'm finding myself I'm on like month 8. We haven't pulled the trigger yet because I'm still getting facts and figures and projections and all those kinds of things. So it's better to go out fully prepared than going out just because you're excited.
yeah. Yep. Gosh, I can relate to that. Actually, for about 14 months now, I've been working with two other partners to get this one business launched. And um, Medicare changes and whatnot. Actually, today we just decided, you know what, it is not the right time.
Mhm.
So pulled back after all the research we've done and just hours and hours of work. But yeah, it's all right. We pulled
I,
back and
I'll tell
the
you,
timing of it all was divine. So
yeah,
we had to go with it.
the company I have now, Majestic Residences, I actually wanted to franchise that back in 2008
Mm,
and decided to franchise my other business before that because it just wasn't the right time. There weren't enough senior providers back then. It just wouldn't have worked back then. Matter of fact, a buddy of mine took my idea and tried to run with it, and it lasted maybe 6 months. So,
timing.
sometimes you have to wait.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. But you're super excited. You're like, oh, this is such a great idea and it's going to cash flow so great. And
Yep. Yep.
yeah,
And everyone's gonna
but
run to it. And if I build it, they will come. And
yeah,
no, that's not how it works. You know.
yeah. If only, right?
Yeah, and the other thing I think with new entrepreneurs, even if they're not franchising, they have to write everything down. Everything, you know, because the more you have written down step by step, the more you can train other people quicker, right? You can fly to Paris for a month if you need to, because everything's written down and someone else can follow it. And, you know, they're not going to make that mistake because they don't remember something. Right. And, I say that because you never know when you want to franchise. Because if you ever decide to franchise your business, everything has to be written down. Absolutely everything has to be written down. But if you're not going to franchise, still write down absolutely everything. If if you decide to do a floral store or whatever, write steps of how do you open the store, because that you're going to have that employee someday. And the problem I had a lot, even now sometimes, is when you know a subject so well, you just assume other people know it because it's right. It's just like Oh my God, anyone knows this. Just because you have mastered it so well, everyone should know it. Everyone already knows it. So, and the thing is, people don't know it, you know?
Yeah.
So you'd think, well, gee, coming in, you unlock the door, you turn on the lights, and then you're in business. Well, no, maybe you turn the lights, you make sure the temperature is right. You turn on the cashier, or, I mean, I'm trying to say there's multiple steps in walking in your front door and starting your business, right? That's just a small example, but there's everything you do needs to be written down step by step. That way you can also judge where there's a failure. If something isn't working, what step am I missing? What step is that client going away and buying something else, or doing another, or going to a competitor? And then you can take a look at that step and say, well, let's see how we can help that.
That is such great advice, especially for somebody who may not be detail oriented.
Oh yeah, I know that person.
Me.
It's really weird. It's just funny you say that because, we're still, my company now, we're still writing manuals. We've been in this now for 18 months and we're still writing manuals. And I laughed so hard a couple of weeks ago when I sat down and said, okay, I got to write a manual for this part of the business. And I was on page 45 before I knew it and said, oh God, I just thought of something else. What if the client says no? Okay, there's another 3 pages. I mean, it's amazing. Once you do it enough, even if it wasn't your strength to begin with, you'll make it your strength just by doing it over and over and over and over again, and thinking about it, So take,
Yeah.
every angle and just document, write checklists, do everything possible, because you're not going to be by yourself forever. Because if you are by yourself forever, you're not working to your highest potential.
So true. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, the writing the manuals, or even comes down to like policies, right? They're just
Yes.
a piece of the
Yeah.
manual.
Yeah.
You just forget, you don't even realize that, oh yeah, we do that. Oh yeah, that's
And if you don't do it, you're and you are starting to get successful in your business, you can't grow. You'll end up
Mhm.
losing clients because you don't have things flowing fast enough and you can't do it yourself. And then you're too busy to train someone, right? Or you're training this, just follow me for the next week. It doesn't work that way. Doesn't work.
And write everything down that I do.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yes. Oh, well, that's awesome. All right, Chuck. Well, if you were going to give just one piece of advice to somebody who is brand new entrepreneur, they're ready to
Mhm.
go, what would your one piece of advice be?
There's a book, and everyone asks me this. I never know who the author is. I always forget. But there's a book that's called The Obstacle is the Way.
Hmm.
And it's a short book, you'll read it quickly. What it talks about looking beyond obstacles and making them work to your advantage. And it's a great, quick book, and it really helped open my eyes a lot. And with that, someone gave me some advice once, which I thought was really great. It's never either or; it's always either and.
Mm.
So never look at I either do this or do that. You need to look at it as, I can do this and I can do this. Or find another way to solve the problem rather than just, one or the other. Because it's one or the other. It's you're pitting decisions against each other. It won't work in your favor.
Hmm. I like that. That's solid advice. And I think I'm going to go on Amazon when we get off the call here and go order that book. So I haven't heard of that one either.
Oh, it's a great book. Great book. Quick read. Great book. It's kind of like, to give an example of one of the stories is about uh, there's an army going to capture a castle. Oh no, the castle walls are so tall, we'll never get in. Well, instead of looking at it as people are trying to keep you out, you need to look at it as maybe you can keep people from going in.
Mm.
So those aren't just walls that are working against you. Now you can stop them from bringing food in, bringing, whatever, so the obstacle that you originally thought, which was those, 20-foot walls, actually work in your favor if you think about it right.
Actually, a gateway.
Yeah. And there's another one too, another great book called 3 Feet from Gold. That was one. Did you read that one?
I think I've read like the cliff notes on it, where like you stop 3 feet from it. Yes. Yeah. Why you got to keep on going.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was um, what do you call those guys? A geologist who bought this gold mine, and he did all the measurements and knew exactly where the gold was going to be. And he went bankrupt because he couldn't find the gold. And he sold it to just this farmer guy for like pennies on the dollar. And he just went 3 feet further and found the largest gold vein in America history. And, it's kind of a metaphor for just because you think you know it all, you don't know it all. And the other guy, he was a sexy buffalo, man. He knew it wasn't going to work. And he just put his head down and dug 3 feet, and there you go.
Yeah. 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 That's a great story. Go be the sexy buffalo. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that's not like your icon for your new business.
I don't know how to draw a sexy buffalo. I don't know I'm not a male buffalo. I don't know what's sexy to a male buffalo.
That's funny. Oh, that's awesome. Well, Chuck, thank you so very much. So for your business, like how can people find you and find what you do?
Yeah, they can go to www.discovermajesticresidences.com, and they could be people that want to start a residential care home business, or someone who's a real estate investor that wants to buy the homes and lease them to our franchisees.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. You dropped some like major value bombs there. I just took like a ton of notes on your call.
I appreciate the invite myself. Thank you.